I think this is going to be a much more positive cup than the last one. Right off the bat, I'm actually okay with the Lucky Cat Bell emblem. I may have not agreed that the Super Bell was the one that was used in the last game, but if they're continuing, this is the next one. At first I thought they were kind of taking the easy way out and they should have gone back to the retro stuff, but then I thought about it again and remembered that 3D World plus Bowser's Fury came out a year before this wave did. So it checks off the relevancy box, it checks off the power-up box, because the Golden Dash had already checked off the item box, which apparently they were trying to check both boxes off for this first wave. If this was an emblem chosen after the Lightning Cup, I probably would have more to complain about. But seeing as how this is the 6th Grand Prix since the Lightning Cup, and the rules have seemingly all changed, I at least can reward this one for being relevant, both in the games that are coming out around it, as well as what the previous power-up was used, that being the Super Bell. But let's move on from the emblem talk. While I gave a bit of an introduction to the booster course stuff in the previous segment, I think I skipped over something important that I had forgot to mention. A lot of the tracks that were brought over here were from Tour, and that's not just the Tour tracks. Many of the retro stuff, and even some of the ones that they claim are new, were actually from Tour originally. They just weren't your typical City Tour. So if you notice a notable drop in quality when you're playing some of the Booster Pass stuff, that's why. Granted, a few of them do just fine and they look good too. And realistically speaking, I'm saying this but you all already know it. But I do think it's necessary to address in case one of you viewers out there did not know this. So if you didn't know, and you were wondering why a lot of these Booster Pass courses just don't look nearly as good as the main game, that's why. That's probably why a lot of them feel more bland than they should. That might even be why Coconut Mall wasn't as appealing to me as I thought it would be. But I will say that there are a lot of tracks that started from Tour that I do enjoy. I don't intend on researching to check exactly which one came from Tour and which one was built from the ground up. I'm fairly confident it'll be obvious depending on how the track looks. But at the end of the day, I don't take visuals that seriously, it's mostly about the gameplay and the design. With that in mind, I'm going to throw up the scorecard on the screen and let you know that if you're new around here, I'm doing a full Mario Kart series and going through every single Grand Prix. If you're joining now, there are a lot of videos for you to catch up on. The link for the playlist is in the description. The Lucky Cat Cup is made up of Tokyo Blur from Tour, Shroom Ridge from the Nintendo DS, Sky Garden from the Game Boy Advance, and Ninja Hideaway, a new track. Tokyo Blur does a lot better job conveying what a city looks like than Paris did. It has many of the same concepts as the other stage, however, where the track splits off at different laps and there are some difficult turns to make where you might go the wrong way. But all things considered, it's fairly simple to get through this one. In Paris, there was a piranha plant as an obstacle, and this one there's a thwomp as an obstacle. I think this track might actually be easier than the Paris one, and I think it makes for a good start to a Grand Prix. I don't hate it, I won't go out of my way to play it, it gets 1 point. And in case at this point you guys are starting to think that I'm going to give every single city track 1 point, don't worry, that won't be the case. I just think these first two are pretty basic. They're not getting 1 because they're city courses, they're getting 1 because that's just how I feel about them. Coming up, we have Shroom Ridge from the Nintendo DS. This is not a Toad track, but it's a Shroom track, so I think it gets the same amount of hate as Toad does. Especially considering you're driving through a road and there's a bunch of cars on the way. I don't really hate this one, although I admit that I do feel like it's simple in its design. I kind of like that I'm always on my toes because I never know when I'm going to go around the corner and have to dodge a vehicle. A part of me thinks this might be a little bit too similar to the Tokyo one, but a lot of this road takes place on the side of the mountain, and Tokyo didn't have any vehicles as obstacles. So while both tracks are sunny and on a road, and if there was a third track that was like that, that could be an issue, they still feel different enough to me where I would say they're both diverse. And in addition to that, I feel like the difficulty point is still at play, which is good because I was initially worried that having the Tour tracks going first was going to remove the difficulty point from every one of these Grand Prix. But we at least have one out of the way. Shroom Ridge gets a point, nothing exciting, but I don't hate it. I'll have fun when I play it, but I won't go out of my way to play it. And next up is Sky Garden from the Game Boy Advance. So first things first, this is obviously not true to the original design of the Game Boy Advance version. This is a much more modernized version of the Game Boy Advance track. And the layout was also slightly altered to make it a little bit more manageable to get through. Here's my hot take. I like this one more than Cloud Top Cruise. Something about how you drift and the way the turns are lined up and the shortcuts available just make this one a little bit more exhilarating for me. And I feel like they fit the general Mario in the Sky visuals better than Cloud Top Cruise does. Cloud Top Cruise, if you remember, was a 1-pointer for me. This one's a 3-pointer. I do go out of my way to play this one a lot more than I do for Cloud Top Cruise. And oftentimes when I do play Cloud Top Cruise, I'm like, oh, let's go do Sky Garden next. This just feels like one of those lean forward and focus type of races, and I'm all for it. Let's continue on to Ninja Hideaway, the second Japanese-inspired course in this Grand Prix, actually. I think this one gets a lot of love for its uniqueness. It takes place in, around, and on top of a dojo. Spread throughout, there are upper and lower segments where you're often rewarded for taking the more difficult route, and to balance that out, it is more difficult to remain on that difficult route. The theming here is just on point. Almost every room you enter or exit, you'll see something that just kind of sticks out to you if you're looking for it. There's even a Wario reference with the garlic on the walls. I kind of wish they would have just altered this one a little bit to make it themed based off of the Bowser Castle in Mario Odyssey. But regardless, this one is working for me. It's also pretty difficult, and actually every one of these courses has been more difficult than the previous one. When you give the map the eye test, it doesn't look that complicated, but there are so many obstacles and so many things you can catch onto that it's almost hard to predict what's going to pop up in front of you next. This is another 3-point track for me. I have a lot of fun revisiting it, and I remember just being wowed by it the first time I played it. I think when the first wave came out for this booster pass, I wasn't really that into the city tracks, and I was actually very concerned about what was to come of the city tracks. Thankfully, when a few more came out, I started to enjoy them. Toad Circuit just felt like a regular race. It is what it is. And likewise with Shroom Ridge. The remaining 4 tracks is what I was all about. Choco Mountain, Coconut Mall, Ninja Hideaway, and Sky Garden. And a lot of it was for that nostalgic appeal. The problem is the 2 courses that I was nostalgic for were both in the same cup. Those being Choco Mountain and Coconut Mall. Sky Garden, even on the Game Boy Advance I didn't play it that much, so that felt like a brand new track to me. And Ninja Hideaway felt like nothing I had ever played before in Mario Kart. I don't know at what point exactly I stopped picking the Golden Dash Cup when we'd play, but now that I'm actually analyzing it, it makes full sense to me. Once the nostalgia wears off, what's left? 2 mediocre tracks in my opinion, but Ninja Hideaway and Sky Garden were not tracks that I was playing for the nostalgia. They were tracks that I felt I was getting very competitive in and really enjoying playing them and revisiting them. I just never really thought about it all until right now. Anytime we play online, I almost never select anything from the Golden Dash Mushroom. But the 2 courses I love in the Lucky Cat Cup, I'm definitely selecting those ones. And then even when you look at the Grand Prix as a whole, it follows a proper difficulty curve and you have the 4 courses that are diverse. The first wave of the booster course pass might have seemed underwhelming in hindsight, but I don't think it's necessarily as bad as everyone makes it out to be. I don't know if it's just my arbitrary circles, but it seems like everybody's always just going on about how great Coconut Mall is and maybe Sky Garden and nothing else. Ninja Hideaway was hyped up at one point, but it seems like that hype has worn off for a lot of people, but it hasn't for me. I could be wrong, and that's why I enjoy when you guys leave your comments, because I discovered that there are a lot of people that have very different opinions than what I've read online. So please continue to do that. I know it's pretty generic for a YouTuber to ask for comments, but keep in mind, since I release these things daily, you'd be surprised how many things make it into my script because you guys share an opinion in a comment. It's not the main reason I read all the comments. The main reason I do that is because I don't want to feel like I'm talking to a wall all the time. Also, I figure if you guys are going to take the time to watch my videos, the least I can do is see how you guys react to my opinions. But yeah, keep them coming. They're literally helping me make these videos. But anyway, let's officially tally this one up. The second cup of the first wave of the Booster Course Pass of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Lucky Cat Cup's Tokyo Blur, earned a single point. The second course, Shroom Ridge, earned a single point. The third course, Sky Garden from the Game Boy Advance, earned 3 points because I loved it. And finally, Ninja Hideaway also earned 3 points because I loved it. All 4 tracks are unique in their design and unique in their map layouts, so they earn another 3 points. And the difficulty curve is consistent going from 1 to 4. So there's another point there. Believe it or not, this cup is the first one to earn 12 points. Which is actually not bad at all. 4 points shy of a perfect score because it has 2 tracks that I like instead of love. I'm not really trying to grade all of the different waves, but I say this is a good start. Which is funny because I remember when it first came out, the hype was crazy for it. But now looking back, it just seems so underwhelming compared to everything else that's about to come. But really, that's primarily because of the Golden Dash. I think the Lucky Bell did good enough, and I think the upcoming Turnip Cup is going to do just fine. We'll discuss that on the next segment.